Between 2010 and 2020, the share of workers with an immigrant background has nearly doubled in Finland. A report from Etla, the research institute of the Finnish economy, states that in 2020, 7.5% of workers in Finland had foreign origins. But what kind of jobs are available to internationals? How can we look for a job when we are not able to read Finnish? How can I check if a contract is fairly paid? And once my career is launched, what are the possibilities to evolve in my field? Welcome to What's Next Finland, a podcast series that will tell you all about living, studying and working in Finland as an international. My name is Noémie. I will be your host during the 6 episodes that will deal with different topics such as learning Finnish, making friends, looking for a job or even starting your own company. Today, we will welcome Tingting, who has been living, studying and working in Finland since 2009 and who will share her experience and advice about the Finnish job market. But before we dig into this, let's name a few organizations that can support you through your job-seeking journey. TE-palvelu or TE-toimisto, also called TE offices, provide career guidance services for newcomers in Finland. Don't hesitate to check online TE offices and the name of your city. International houses provide a lot of different services, including soft landings, language courses, but also career guidance. If you are a student, of course, don't hesitate to check directly the career services of your university. Finally, private organizations such as International Professionals Finland or Working Women of Finland might be good places to look for seminars, workshops, or even courses. The links to all the organizations mentioned can be found in the description of this video. Now let's be honest with ourselves. There is no easy way to find a job that matches both our skills and values, no matter the country you're living in. Yet there are habits and tips that can help you match the Finnish market's expectations, and that's why today we will hear a bit more about this topic with Tingting. Let's dig into it.
Hi, I'm Tingting. I'm a Chinese Finn. I have lived in Finland for more than 15 years and I enjoy living here. So I grew up in China. When I was studying in university in China, I met my Finnish husband when he was an exchange student. We moved together to Finland. I studied Finnish language and I passed the YKI test level 3, which was mandatory if you want to become a Finnish citizen. So after that, I decided to further educate myself in higher education. So I applied to bachelor degree study again when I moved to Finland, and Turku University of Applied Sciences was my top option. After graduation, I worked in several different companies, from world top 500 to mini-sized enterprises. I have worked mainly in sales and marketing, communication positions. While working, I also did MBA study, and this week I just graduated.
Yay, congrats!
Thank you, and I received my diploma this morning.
Okay, so that's really fresh.
Yes.
Once you graduated, did you do internships or did you start a full-time job directly?
Actually, I did also work during study.
Okay.
Yeah, because I already have a bachelor degree in China. Yes. So the reason I studied again is because I visited the employment office and they told me that, because I studied English, and they told me that everybody here speaks English. Yeah, so that's why I decided to study something different, and I have always wanted to study business management and international business marketing, so it was... Anyway, I'm very happy to study again, and I really enjoy studying in Finland. That's why I again did MBA study. I wish I could just study whole life. The student life in Finland is wonderful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a luxury to have the opportunity to study here.
So the last question is, so you were working at the same time as you were studying, and did you work directly in the field you wanted, or did you have to do other kind of jobs?
Yeah, I did all kinds of jobs. When I was studying, I worked in the same university where I studied. So I pitched myself in our school leader's office, and I told him what I can do, and I'm a very determined person. I'm willing to work hard, and just, if you have any kind of opportunity that is suitable for me, please let me know. So then I actually got another opportunity. First, I worked in EU project within our school. So we had a project together with other organizations, but it's not the same as working in a company. Yeah, so it still feels like you are, in a school. It's not enough to young students. I would encourage them to go outside of campus, just work wherever they can, even like as a cashier in H&M, or I understand with higher education they want to look for immediately suitable position in large companies, but I think especially for English speaking or foreign speaking students in Finland, any opportunity is really golden. So you don't know what will lead you to. So after I graduated, I applied for jobs, and miraculously I got a job in. I'm saying miraculously because when I was in the coffee room or taking some tea, someone just came to me and asked, "So, whose relatives are you?"
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Well, I don't know anybody here. I just got the position through interviews.
Okay.
So I felt okay. Yeah, you do need some kind of connections in Finland for some companies. I'm not saying this is the company, how their culture is today, because now it has changed a lot. But back then, that was more than 10 years ago. So of course, this today is different. They have changed so much. But more than 10 years ago, it was more important to have contacts, have networks, and strong contacts. It's not enough, like in Europe, many people and you just know somebody. It's not enough. Here, the contacts means really like close relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's less required nowadays, but I still feel like it plays a big role. And so you found this job at Wärtsilä, and actually I wanted to ask you, how did you find the jobs you applied to in general? So maybe first with this example at Wärtsilä, and then with the job that you are currently doing.
Yeah, I have been working, of course, mentioned earlier that I have worked in different sizes of companies, different types, different industries. Yeah, so the Wärtsilä work, for example, I saw the ads from our school, so that's still part of the school networks. Okay. So I really feel appreciated. There was, I think, as I remember, what is his name, Juha? Well, he was in charge of the student's career in a way. He's posting all the job ads so that you can apply, so it's visible for students. Then I applied, and then luckily I got a position. But after that, other job I found is more from LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. There are so much opportunities, especially from very bigger companies, let's say, more international companies. So if you are employed in Finland, you should go to register that you are looking for a job. You are unemployed right now in TE-toimisto, so the employment office, and they have also a job platform, job how do you say it? As a job market online that you can find also quite many job opportunities, but there are mostly in Finnish. Yeah, even though I understand the ads, but when they post a job advertisement in Finnish, it means you need to speak fluent Finnish and write also fluently, which is super hard, and you need to compete with the native speakers, so makes it really challenging. That's why I think LinkedIn is a place maybe have more opportunities for international talents, so that that our advantages could be more visible there. In the beginning, when I moved to Finland, I sent everywhere, but you don't hear anything back then. More than 10 years ago, that was really mission impossible.
I think it's still the case, so you will reassure people to feel, okay, I'm not the only one.
Today it's not impossible anymore. Today it's good news that there are jobs for immigrants as well. But back then, more than 10 years ago, more than 15 years ago, it was almost impossible.
And in your case, what made you succeed in your applications, for instance? What was the moment when you felt, okay, now I'm applying in a better way, maybe I'm not wasting so much my time? And because a mistake, I feel, at the beginning is to apply to too many different places, and because we are not sure of what we want to do ourselves. Exactly. And then it's frustrating if we get no answers. So what would be your advice concerning job application?
Very good question. I recall the difference, when I recall backwards how I applied when I was a young girl, when I moved to Finland. I made a very beautiful CV, but I didn't have a customized one. I had of course, changed the key information. But back then, I had a very simple CV that I sent it everywhere with the same information. But after years of working in Finland today, I don't do the same mistakes anymore. So I have always done that. I have some part of the information, like education, work experience, they are kind of similar. Titles are the same. But if you are applying for different tasks, I mean the job, if it includes different kind of tasks, you should highlight your work experience related to that task. Because the HR wouldn't be interested to know you have done extraordinary job in something, that is not related at all. Of course, there are companies that are super, those very good HRs, they appreciate your soft skills and check all the details, but they are very busy, so there is no way they are gonna check everything. And I even found out in my previous job, that's a 5G telecommunication company, really, really nice HR that I met, and I prepared very well because they had video interview remotely.
Okay.
Few rounds interview. I went through a few rounds of interviews, and that was a really good experience because the colleagues I worked with, they are super intelligent. They spoke very good English, so that makes the interview also smooth, because that's really one thing important, because you might think that's of course everybody speaks English, but I have worked in company where my supervisor doesn't speak English, for example, right now.
Okay. Yeah, that makes it a bit harder.
So the communication is missing, You cannot communicate deep enough that you would really have a smooth understanding on each other. So that's something very challenging. I would encourage people, if your Finnish language skills is not as native level, I think it's maybe you should think carefully when you enter into a pure Finnish work environment, because you could survive there. But I think that growth and your contribution might be limited, because sometimes you don't acquire the same amount of information as your colleagues, because they might have a small talk in the kitchen and you missed it, because that's quite common. That it happens, unfortunately, and people don't do it on purpose, but you could be left out sometimes. So I think what I succeeded in my job interview was that I made customized job application. I did research on the company. That's very, very important. And I did even research on the team.
Okay.
I knew the HR person very well. I try to find out, not stalk on people, but you can find some information.
She likes horses, maybe. Start the conversation with
but
you.
She did the same for me. She told me in the job interview, we told each other that, hey, I noticed that you like dancing. And she said, yeah, I checked you like dancing too. And then we clicked. So this sort of information, soft talk, this kind of relaxing talk, it's also important. I just read, I quite often see this kind of video. They tell you the tips on getting a job like smoothly, and quite many people share that. Hidden information is, you think that skills are the top reason. It's not. They often don't pick the top candidate. They pick the one they like.
Yeah, and the one that matched with the mood of the company,
exactly.
I guess.
They want to pick someone who they want to work happy with every day. Oh, and when you think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you pick a smart person but really arrogant and doesn't collaborate and
Yeah.
don't want to work with anybody here? It's like, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found that I at least totally agree with it. And
Okay.
if I start my company, I want to find every single one. They like each other, not only like me as if I'm an employer. So I think it makes total sense that.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't think that you should change yourself just to be likable. You have to check if that company culture fits you. That's something I learned when I grew up. When I was younger, of course, we don't have that enough confidence, and you change yourself to fit everywhere. But then at the end of the day, you feel exhausted, and after a few months, you get burnout because that's not you.
Yeah.
So that's something also you need to look at yourself in a mirror. That is that who I am? So even though it's a great job, but is it healthy in the long run?
Yeah.
So I think that's something I wish somebody would have told me when I was young. So I'm happy to share today with everybody.
Yeah, these are good advice. So
Yeah.
customize your CV, maybe do research about the company or even the employers themselves or the team themselves. And then how did you prepare for the interviews?
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to continue. So you have to practice.
Okay.
The more you practice, the better.
And how did you practice? Did you ask a friend, for instance, to ask you questions, or where did you look for the questions?
I think today people are so lucky because of internet.
Yes.
You can find everything online. You don't
can
need
train
to
with ChatGPT.
Exactly. You don't need to go to grandmother to ask,
Yeah.
how did you get this and through? And yeah, today you can find anything. You can ask ChatGPT, and you can record yourself and
true.
see backwards how did it go. So I did that. I recorded many times how it went, and then I actually in the round of video interview that was a mandatory, but thank God they allow you to modify, so it's not like one time shot like some company. You click the button start and that's it.
Oh my God, the stress.
Yeah, I think that's too cruel because sometimes you're not ready for a video recording yet. So yeah, I think HR, please think about that kind of situation. Yeah, I think yeah. But anyways, I really enjoyed that actually as well. I think it's anyway we are involved. We are advancing. Technology is advancing. I think that's something we can benefit. For example, when we apply for a job that is in another city, like my last job is in Vantaa, and I travel to Oulu, but it's hybrid mode, so it's doable. And I enjoy also traveling when it's not every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the topic. Practice.
Yeah.
Practice in different ways. You can also check from the mirror, but the best I think is to record yourself and then look your body language. And I think one thing I found out very weirdly is that still today I'm not happy with myself is when I record the video, my voice sounds different as I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you are nervous, you speak really fast, and the voice somehow goes really high. So that's somehow nowadays I'm trying to practice and speak very gently and slow to be clear.
Yeah, it's a super good advice. Actually, when I was doing the test before, I was noticing like when I'm stressed, I put my eyebrows super high and I have the lines on my forehead. I was like, relax this forehead. And we all have like small things that we do.
Everybody has their own thing.
It's true. Recording, you're forced to face these little details that you amplify when you're stressed. But let's consider that now, okay, you have passed the interviews and you have been selected for position in a company. How would you advise them for negotiating the terms of the contract or their salaries? Like, what did you learn from your experiences?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing people want to find out.
Yeah, and sometimes we forget it as students because we are so happy to get the job, and we are not used. I mean, at least back home, I was not used to have the employer asking me, how much would you like to be paid? It was super strange to ask this, and when I arrived to Finland, I was confronted with this question and I didn't know how to answer it. So how did you solve that issue yourself?
In today's job application, they already ask you on the online application step 1.
Oh, okay.
Quite many of them I found, what I have noticed. I think it is a great sign when you see a job as mentioning already, okay, this job position salary range will be from, let's say, 5,500 to 6,500. So it tells you already.
You're ambitious. You're making me dreams with these salaries.
Well, we can give good examples, you know. You can dream.
Yeah. 10,000, let's go.
What if it comes true? You're allowed to dream. Dream big. Aim high. Yeah, so it's important to pay attention actually to also the ads. It's a good indication. It's a good employer if they tell you already.
Yeah.
It's transparency. And I wouldn't say it's not, I don't mean that it's a bad company if they don't say it, but of course quite many companies don't mention it, but they have to in the end they have to ask that question as well. So nobody can skip that part. So I was, for example, I have had that situation almost every time in my job interview. I'm quite proud of myself. I have improved also in this question. Of course, when I was once upon a time also new fresh graduate, I didn't know, of course, just like you said, oh yes, I got a job, and then whatever you pay, I'm happy. So the first job you usually get, I think nobody, I have heard some students are really, really smart, they ask, they demand, but I was just like, whatever they offer me was fine, because you know how hard it is to get a job for immigrants in Finland. It's like minimum salary, I will do it.
Yeah, you're put in a position where it's difficult to ask for too much because you're scared of being refused. So there's a lot of pressure, and maybe with time you realize, oh, but at least actually they need me also.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to remember that your job, you provide values to the company. So that's, I think it's important to remember yourself, that remind yourself you are important. That's why they want to talk with you right now in that room, asking about how much you should get paid.
Yeah.
So just remember that, be confident. But of course you can't just say random numbers. In Finland it's quite convenient that you can search online quite often through your union website average salary of each particular job title. You can search, it's transparent information. Yeah. So in unions, for example, I'm part of this marketing and sales union that they have annually done market research. You can see exactly what level, how many years of experience equals that amount of salary. So then you know what you're earning right now. Is it good or is it bad? Is it below average? Something to work for improve. So nowadays I just tell that I did research, and based on my education, my experience, and the tasks, everything, you need to, have reasons and clarify things. And then you give a reasonable offer and then see what they do, what will they say. Yeah. But of course you shouldn't be like, I will not work on this one if you don't pay me 8,000 euros per month. That will not work. Yeah, so, in this meanwhile, of course, I'm flexible in a way that I usually say that I trust the company will provide a reasonable level of salary. So I'm fine with the industrial level and also the company policy.
Yeah.
So you respect what they have there, and then at the same time you provide a number that you think that is reasonable, like for the industry and for the city you are applying. For example, Helsinki, Turku, different.
Yeah, true. That's a really good point, that depending on the city, since the rent or the lifestyle is
the living cost is so much higher there.
Yeah, so if you apply for a job in Helsinki, you need to take into account that you will also spend more money, and that's why the salaries vary so much depending on the city. And that's a really good point I didn't think about mentioning. Now I would like to end this discussion with maybe if you could give us 3 words to describe Finnish work culture, and at least how you feel when you work with Finns or in a Finnish. I mean, you work in both Finnish and international companies.
Yeah.
So you had different work environment, but if you had only 3 words to describe it.
To describe about Finnish working environment, I think the first thing is trust. That here there is no. It sounds funny, but some companies have cameras checking employees what they are doing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so there are cultures like that. It works in that culture, but in Finland, it works that way. People trust each other. So I think it's great. It's precious, and that makes people do their work better, because the trust is built, of course, based on that everybody's doing their work, so this will work. This continues. If someday it doesn't work, then the trust disappears. Of course, then it will become similar as other culture. So I think in Finland, the trust level, not only in work environment, in our life, it's something people try to protect it very well. I think that's beautiful part of the Finnish culture.
Yeah, it's like everyone is treated as an adult, as a responsible person.
Yeah.
So I like, for instance, that in some contract they will ask me at some point to provide some results, etc. But they will never ask me how I did it or how much time it took. They will just tell me, okay, this is the deadline, and as long as you have done the job, I don't care at what time of the day you worked, or if it was 12 hours the day before giving back. As long as it's done, this is what matters to me, and I trust that you are responsible enough to handle this task. And I love it. I think that it's super empowering, and at the same time, it makes you set your own goal and want to go further, not for the company, but for yourself also, like to prove yourself, because the boss is checking, of course, but the person you want to impress is your own self in the end. So
exactly. Yeah, well said. The second word, I think it's equality. Of course, it's not exactly the same for men and women here.
We can still discuss.
Nothing is exactly the same. No, actually, I think it's relatively equal here for not only about men and women, but I mean like for different nationalities. It is hard for foreigners, for immigrants to get a job here. But if you compare with other places, I think it's still quite good.
Yeah, I completely agree, and also for the gender equality, at least for me, when I arrived in Finland, I was like, wow, there are so many women who are leader of a team, or who are doing also like physical jobs. I don't know, they were like guards at the supermarket, or driving trucks.
Construction site.
Yeah, in construction.
I think they look so cool.
Yeah, I had never seen a girl driving a truck in France like this, so it was really cool to see it when I arrived. I was like, okay, women can do anything here. That, at least from the job side, it looks like there are way more opportunities for women.
The third one is about balance. Life is not only work. You can have so much life. Even though the winter is hard to go through, most people complain, but for me it's not a problem. No, you can go to work already 7 o'clock in the morning, and then you leave 3 p.m.
Yeah.
So you still have almost half a day left. Gradually, after working different industries, I have maybe slowly to realize what I want for myself. So that's one thing I could share, is that it's very important for yourself to know what you want to have in your life. What do you want to do? Not really like for the sake of looking for a job, because job is one tiny part of your life actually eventually when you think about it, especially after living in Finland. That's something I really like about Finland. It's in some other culture, like in China, work could be more important than family at some point. Yeah. So if you have an important meeting with client, you have to be there. You sacrifice your family for that. But in Finland, no. Yes,
family is really primary, and you are home for Christmas, and you are home for celebrations, and no weekends at work. And I mean, it can happen, but it's very exceptional. They don't like to work late. It's important to go pick up the kids at school, this kind of thing.
Yeah, like in some culture, you don't get paid for overtime work.
Yeah, or to have a baby.
Yeah. And even you pay your employees to work, for a few hours if you need some important time. You have to ask for their permission first. It's not that you have to come here. Yeah, so that's something really good about Finnish working culture. That for employees there is so much freedom and so much right.
Yeah, but thank you for these nice images to finish on. And thank you for coming today and sharing your experience.